Well, hello and welcome to the Footy Interchange. Adam Papalia with you. Do a bit of work for Fox Footy, a bit of work for 6BR as well across the weekends. But I'm very excited to be here chatting alongside Will Schofield and talking all things footy. It's a show where we get right around the country. We check in with all of our regular guests in each and every state and find out exactly what is happening in their home venues as well, because they're the ones that are in the know, just to find out what people are actually talking about rather than just all the usual headlines. So we'll get to the crux of it here. It's great to have your company on the Footy Interchange, Scully, as I welcome you in, mate. Good to chat.
Hello, Paps. Good to be with you, mate. There's a little bit going over here in the West. Probably more than you'd think, given we've got the bottom place side and the other one that just beat the bottom place side.
Just got through. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest derby that we did on the weekend,
No.
I don't think. But
There was a couple of highlights, though.
There was.
Like the Harley Reid mark was good.
Yep.
A couple of good goals.
Dudley was good.
Yes, Dudley good. Sarong and Brayshaw back in business. They're senior players. So I don't know where Freo lands, but yeah, it was a bit of a dud derby.
We're going to talk Oscar Allen in just a second, because that's the biggest thing I think that a lot of people in the whole AFL landscape want to talk about where that one's at. A couple of things I want to check. First of all, on YouTube we got some feedback from last week, and I wanted to read this one out as a bit of a stuff you to the Shelter Footy Cast. Says, I think this is the best BackChat show. Biden and Scully is quite good for its humour, but this show with Papalia is far more professional and informative for actual footy info.
Do you know what the point of difference is? It's you and you, as opposed to me and Skeet, know what you're talking about. The thing that me and Skeet have got going is we pretend like we know, but we don't really, and we end up just taking the piss out of each other. So I think that's about as good of a description we could write.
Yeah, we've got to put that in the Google reviews or wherever we put that.
That's good.
But thank you to the person that sent that one through. Very, very nice feedback. And we'll take some questions and comments as we go, as always, on X, or you can put them in the YouTube comments too. But I did just a little welfare check for you first, Scully, because
what's happening?
Well, I did tune in. I tuned into the Shelter Footy Cast.
Yes.
I enjoy it on a Monday, as you two just talk about it. But you were very angry yesterday. You were off the long run about absolutely everything, and we're 4 weeks into the footy season. It's a long year, Scully. I just want to check in. It's not Are You Okay Day, but I just want to check, are you okay?
Well, no, I'm fine. What was annoying me?
Everything.
Look,
everything was.
I'm frustrated with a few AFL related things. I'm frustrated
Tribunal.
with a few local things here in Western Australia,
Voting.
a few media related things, both in my personal and professional life. I've got training starting for Aquinas tonight, so I'm trying to prepare a game plan for those boys. So I'm a little bit overloaded, but I'm okay. But I think a little bit of anger is okay.
It is very good, and it was very entertaining as well. But I'll just check you on your welfare before we
Steaming.
get started here. Just on a Monday morning. You're a little bit grumpy yesterday, Scully.
Yes.
But no, good to have you here, and 24 hours on talking all the issues in footy. And the biggest one at the moment is Oscar Allen, both here in WA, but I think around the league too, because it goes to a wider discussion about player movement and what is the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do, what's fair in terms of communicating with other players. So the story going that Sam Mitchell has flown to Perth, has met with Oscar Allen in the last 24 hours, or plans to, in the attempts to lure him as a free agent to Hawthorn. We saw it happen with Tom Barrass last year, who's now at the Hawks. Talk about Harley Reid, but Oscar Allen at the moment, captain of the West Coast Eagles, meeting with another club 4 rounds into the season. Where do you sit on it, first of all? So
let's talk about Sam Mitchell's form in this regard a little bit first. So, Tom Barrass, but also Josh Battle at St Kilda, Jack Ginnivan, D'Ambrosio, Mabior Chol. Sam Mitchell is building and sculpting his side the way he wants it, and he's been aggressive about it, and I don't think he particularly cares if people know about it, because from what we've seen, it's been successful to a point, and he's going to continue to do that. So I don't think he really minds that people know that he's on a quest to go and add people. Harley Reid's been thrown into the mix at Hawthorn as well. So they're clearly on the hunt to add more players to their scheme and their system and their hunt for a premiership. So that's Sam Mitchell. Oscar Allen, I did a bit of a chat about this morning, which has helped me get my thoughts clear on it a little bit. I think there's several complications. If Oscar Allen wasn't captain, this would be an easier situation, I think. I think that it would be quickly solved if there was a contract in front of Oscar that he was either wanting to sign or the contract was good enough from West Coast side. So there's is it Oscar holding it up? Is it West Coast holding it up? But I think first and foremost, the most important thing that I've spoken about a little bit before with other situations is players, in my mind, are motivated by winning first. They want to win games and they want to win premierships. So this conversation, actually, we can talk about the intricacies of being captain and how he talks to his teammates and the media, and do you put your head in the sand and forget about it? But the best way West Coast can keep Oscar Allen is to create a winning environment. And I think he'll stay because he's a West Australian. He wants to see this team succeed and win, and he wants team success. He's the captain of the football club. But if they can't do that, or at least if they can't sell him on the vision that they are going to be successful and this is how they're going to do it, then he's going to leave. He would be the starting full forward, centre-half forward in 17 other teams in the competition. Every single team would have him. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Right? So the talent, the quality, the leadership, none of that's in question. What is in question is West Coast plans and their ability to win, I think, and then Oscar Allen approaching this as a business decision. And then the captaincy stuff comes into it. But I think if West Coast create a winning environment and sell him on that vision, then he stays. But if they can't, he goes.
So there's a lot to unpack in this.
Yes.
Firstly, can West Coast do that? Can they sell him a vision about where they're going as a club? Because at the moment, it does look pretty dire in terms of the results they've had to start the season, the results they've had over recent years, as to how quickly they feel they can actually move in that direction. It feels a long way away right now.
Yeah, I think it's a vision sell because Andrew McQualter can't just turn this side around in a pre-season and then suddenly they get results. Like I've been pretty vocal in saying that they're not a very good football side right now. But Andrew McQualter knows that. West Coast know that. The fans, some at least, have trouble believing or accepting that. But that's the facts. So he needs to sell the vision. Does it include Chad Warner to come into the football club? Does it include, hey, we're going to do this with our draft picks? Hey, we're going to trade this person away. This is how we're going to win. This is the game plan. This is the people. These are the coaches. And this is why it's going to be a successful organisation. Because I know Oscar Allen's motivated by missing out in 2018. He was emergency in 2018, a young player. He is motivated by a premiership. And if he doesn't think that is in with his grasp at West Coast, which I don't know sitting outside if it is, then that's the issue.
So 26 years of age at the moment.
Yep.
So if you're talking about being motivated by that success and having a crack at a premiership, that's needing to happen within the next 6 years.
Yeah, 5, 6 years. And you could definitely mount an argument for it, surely. Hey, we're going to be bad over the next 2 years. We're going to go to the draft. We're going to go to the trade table. We're going to get this, and this. And you're going to be our leader. You're going to be our best player and you're our most valuable. And here's the contract that says that. That's the other important part. The other thing, perhaps, is the captaincy, right? So I came to the footy club 2006. Chris Judd, as captain, left to Carlton at the end of 2007. So I've sort of been in this situation before. Josh Kennedy, you've stuffed me up here. Chris Marston, and Tony Knott were the three involved in that trade. It was a little bit different. There was some intricacies that were different. But what was the same was that was the captain leaving. And I think the best way to deal with this for Oscar is to be open and honest about it. Maybe not in the public. It's probably a difficult one, but he's going to get asked, isn't he? But I think at first and foremost, I'd be very surprised if he wasn't sitting down with the players today and speaking about it and being really open and honest and saying, basically mirroring what I've just said. These are my motivations. This is what drives me. I'm here to be your captain and to give you 100% right now. I'm playing right now under extreme duress. I haven't done a pre-season and I'm quite injured. I'm not playing very well, but I'm here for you boys. But I've got decisions to make, just like you all have during your career. That's what I'd expect from him. And if you're open and honest about it and not head in the sand about it, I don't think it is as controversial as maybe it was 10 years ago or 5 years ago, because it's becoming a free market and an open market and it's getting more open. So that's what I reckon would be the best way to handle it from Oscar's point of view.
Is the industry mature enough to handle that sort of conversation now? We see it, and it's always a reference point with the NRL, with players announcing their intentions and signing a year into the future, saying, I'm going to this club next year, but I'll give my all this year for this club, and then I'm out the door. See you later. But it feels very clandestine at the moment in terms of secret meetings and no one really agreeing to the fact that they actually are meeting with people, and then all this sort of stuff is happening. We put our heads in the sand a little bit until the free agency period opens at the end of the year?
I think we are mature enough as an industry, or at least I'd like to think I am. I know you are as well. I just think the conversation and the environment is changing very quickly. I suggested a couple of weeks ago, like, why have we got all these trade periods? Just open it right up. Like, we've got the pre-season trade period, the SSP period at the end of pre-season. We've got the mid-season trade, and then the full trade period. There's about 8 weeks that we aren't trading. So why don't we just open her up, and then you probably get a little bit more openness and clarity about what's going on, because these conversations are happening. Yep. Adam Simpson, you've heard him speak about this before.
Yep.
He was having these conversations when he was head coach, and he said everyone else is too. I reckon the difference is Sam Mitchell doesn't really care if people know or not.
Yeah.
Which makes it a tough position for the player to be put in.
A little bit.
Unless they don't care either.
But is it also part of that, like for Sam Mitchell, showing that you actually want someone and putting your cards on the table, say, mate, we want you. And if you feel like you are wanted by a club and they're desperate to get you, like, that's a pretty nice feeling to have at the same time.
Mate, honestly, that's what players want. I would argue tooth and nail here on this. People think players just want to be paid the most amount of money possible. I don't think that's true. They want to be wanted. They want to be rewarded. And the reward first is winning and a flag. That's what most are driven by. Yes, there's some players that play for the money, but there's not many in my experience.
So we've spoken through Hawthorn.
Yep.
They clearly want Oscar Allen. Oscar, he has to weigh up in his mind what he wants to do in terms of, is he going to try to have success at another club, and does he see that value somewhere else as opposed to West Coast, if it's not purely a money thing? From West Coast point of view, though, he's 26 years of age. He's your captain of your footy club. As you said before, he would be starting centre-half forward in almost every club in the AFL when he's up and running, because we know what his best is. Why haven't West Coast just got this done and put it to bed already?
I don't know. There's, like I said, I don't think he's done much of a pre-season, and his knee has caused him issues. So there's thoughts around injury.
So there's a bit of talk about that, and we haven't seen the best of him yet this year. So are they waiting to see whether his knee is good enough to be able to perform at the level?
I mean, they'd have to be. I just can't see another reason for them not getting this done. So it has to be around that, which means it must be a pretty significant injury, or at least, potential to get worse. But there's lots of players around the AFL that play with injury, and there's huge medical teams to get players right. So I don't know, whoever else, Bontempelli or Patrick Cripps at their football clubs, these guys that hopes and dreams are around their clubs. You wouldn't have the Western Bulldogs or Carlton going, we're going to wait and see what Paddy Cripps, whether his ankle gets right or not. They're just paying him, and they're going to back themselves in to get him right. So I think West Coast are hedging their bets, and so Oscar Allen's now hedging his bets too. And if they're not careful, the same thing will happen as Tom Barrass. He'll leave.
And the whole part about being desired and wanted, like, make the contract reflect that. If it is someone that you want at the club, just get it done. I mean, they spoke about last year about how they've got that gap in their list of players between 25 to 30, and they brought Liam Baker in and they brought Jack Graham in. Well, Oscar Allen's in that exact same age bracket that they want, and those leaders that they want to go into the future. So for me, I find it strange. And talking to people on radio, listeners calling in, they're like, if he doesn't want to be here, we'll take the draft picks and we'll go back. But you can't just tip everybody out. No. You need some people to bring everybody else through. And he just seems like the type of character that is a good person to have at a club to be able to help you lead into that next period of success. I don't know. From the outside, and I don't know what the contract's been offered, and I don't know any of that. But for the Eagles, it just seems like West Aussie, 26 years of age, your captain, potential gun of the competition, just get it done and put it to bed, and don't let it drag on and let other clubs chat to him through the rest of the year.
You are echoing my thoughts. Every time I come and say this, I get plenty of personal feedback. I've been battling people on social media all weekend that I hate the football club. But I just think you're right. I mean, if you want your guy, go and get him. This is a pretty easy case, I would have thought. And the reason that we speculate in the media is because we don't know what's going on. So the other thing that I think would help all of this is some open clarity. This is where it's at. I know Don Pike spoke on SEN this morning.
Yep.
Pretty straight bat to it all, which is fair enough, CEO. But no one really has any clarity where all this sits.
No, it's going to be a fascinating watch and see, especially as the industry comes to terms with this happening more and more, and probably happening publicly
you're not,
a bit more and more.
Yeah, you're not writing this up if you're West Coast hierarchy, whether you're talking CEO or coach, as the start of the year that you wanted. Harley Reid chat has not been ideal. Whether it's good or bad. And, I think they probably could have been stronger in defending him. And then your captain's caught talking to a senior coach of the best side in the competition, and there's no contract to be signed for Oscar Allen. So I don't think that's going overly well for West Coast. And it, speaks to the situation the club's in right now, which is I've been always realistic about it. It's in a really disappointing state right now. They're not winning, and they can't keep their players.
Last one before we start to head around the country and chat to everyone. Him having to play centre-half back, full-back on the weekend, does that help or hinder the cause?
Well, he debuted as a backman. I remember his first game. He played back pocket next to me and Gov, I'm pretty sure. Look, he looked really sluggish and slow behind the footy, but he looked sluggish and slow in front of the footy too. I just think if we look at Oscar's form right now, I wouldn't be taking 1 second of it into account. I think he's out there because he wants to be and almost has to be because he's the captain and he's just trying to help his younger players and he's trying to show leadership, but he's not right. He's not right to be playing. So I wouldn't be reading too much into his form. It's more about the potential of what someone like Oscar Allen with his leadership qualities could add to a group like Hawthorn, like Brisbane, like a side that wants to win a flag.
Generally a good sign if other people are trying to get the player. You should be trying to hold on to them.
I think so.
If that's what's going on in the market. Plenty to chat around that. If you've got a comment on it, would love you to leave it in the comment section on the YouTube page as well, or hit us up on X as well. But there's so many issues to get into. We'll get right around the country here on the Footy Interchange. Well, the chat will continue around Oscar Allen and his contract status, but what does it actually mean on the field for the Eagles? Bit of injury news to come out of the weekend, Scoey, another loss, a tough trip coming up. Let's check in with Eliza Reilly from Code Sports, who's got everything in the know that's happening in and around both of the clubs in WA. Eliza, obviously Oscar Allen's got everyone talking, and Sam Mitchell coming in as well. We saw him play in the back line on the weekend too. It's all in the mixing pot right now.
Yeah, obviously you guys would have spoken about length about this secret, not so secret meeting that's unfolded in the past 24 hours. But let's talk a bit more about what it means for Oscar on field, because he is out of form, and Andrew McCoulter has basically admitted that in his regular Channel 7 slot on Monday, that he's one of several senior players out of form. So the question is whether there is an opportunity for him to keep playing as a key defender, given that obviously we had that situation on the weekend where the Eagles subbed Harry Edwards out, and then Gov got injured literally, seconds later, which forced Oscar into defence. So I think when you look at the Eagles' sort of key back stocks, Rhett Bazzo's obviously coming off a fairly few injury-interrupted years and might not be ready just yet to come back despite playing waffle on the weekend. And Sandy Brock, obviously the pre-season signing, who's looked pretty good in practice matches so far and won his spot on West Coast list. But looking at the other end of the ground, there's people like Jack Waterman's on the verge of returning, might not get up just this week, but he's almost back. Job Shanahan, who's obviously the draft pick, just in the draft, just gone, kicked 3 in the waffle a few weeks ago. So they seem to have more key forward options than key defenders. They're young key forwards, but I think there's a real potential and possibility we might see Oscar thrown behind the ball to get some form on field as well.
Look, from my point of view, Eliza, I agree with everything you've said, and I think they've got real issues at key position backman, which started with giving away Tom Barrass last year. But Oscar behind the footy doesn't get him back into form. Like, he's not a backman. He's one of the best forwards in the game. So that I don't think for a form point of view, but they may have to because they don't have the stocks. Job Shanahan's probably the one of all of those guys that I would really like to see play. He played at full back the practice game I watched play, but I know, like you said, he played in the forward line, so he's a bit of a swing man. He looks athletic and good to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him. But I would be disappointed to see Jack Williams or Archer Reid dropped to fit Jake Waterman back in the side. So maybe Oscar has to play back, Eliza. You could be spot on the money. Fremantle, let's go over there. A win, finally. Have they got any players coming back? They've got some excitement for fans?
Yeah, the Cavalry is coming back, and it's perfect timing given that they did pick up the first 4 points of the season on the weekend. But we know that Nat Fyfe's been building steadily in the waffle. We expect he'll be fit to return to the senior side soon. And Hayden Young and Sean Darcy are the two big ones, aren't they? We've been waiting to see them all season so far, with Youngie coming up at hamstring and Sean Darcy obviously having that ankle surgery during the pre-season. Both of them are expected to play some sort of level of footy this weekend. And you'd think that the waffle is a very viable option for both of them, given that they have had very interrupted pre-seasons. But those two, you've got Michael Walters and Sam Swikowski, the small forwards who are on their way back as well from injury. So once this Dockers side clicks, I was looking at their fixture for the next month this morning, and they've obviously got the Bulldogs at home this Sunday. And then you've got Melbourne and Richmond, two very winnable games before they play Adelaide, one of the form teams, at home to round out the next month. So if they can start bringing some of these top-end guys back in, you reckon they could pick up 3, maybe even all 4 of those games if everything goes to plan.
It's amazing how much a win can change the perspective of things, can't it? And I mean, we were saying the same thing last week, where we Eliza about the run that they had coming up and if they could get it done. They started the season 3-0 last year and then fell to 3-3. And they're almost doing it a little bit in reverse this year. And if you can get level pegging around about, you can still make an assault on it. Of course, in the Derby, we saw the Dockers midfield absolutely dominate. They probably could have taken a few more opportunities forward of centre and kicked a bigger score. But Caleb Sarong just continues on his way. And now 4 Glendenning Allen medals.
Yeah, he was brilliant, wasn't he? But I do have to admit, I agreed with Scully and Chris Robinson, the chair, in their votes of putting Brayshaw on the top of the pecking order. But obviously, Lee Spur snubbed Brayshaw, so they can sort it out between themselves. But yeah, I guess Caleb, he was going to win a 4th at some point, wasn't he? So may as well chalk it up on the weekend and equal Paul Hazelby's record for the most of all time. And pretty cool photo of both of them floating around sort of on Sunday night with the 4 fingers held up. So he's got plenty of time left in his career to go ahead and, surpass that record, being only 24 years old at the moment. So he's going to be a big factor for the rest of the season. And you can see how important he is to Fremantle's midfield when he's off the leash after being tagged the week before by James Jordan.
Yeah, certainly.
There was coaches' votes were 8, 8 and 8 in Brayshaw, Sarong and Jackson, and Spurry has snubbed him. He couldn't fit Brayshaw into his votes whatsoever, but I followed both the coaches and Chris Robinson, so we're all over it. For what it's worth, I think it was a really hard medal to vote on, and Caleb was very good. So it wasn't like the wrong man.
He got them going. He got it out to Brayshaw, and then Brayshaw took it away from there.
But sorry to just jump in to finish off. How is Sarong not tagged? The first 2 weeks he was tagged.
But Andrew McWalter told us on Fox that they were going to tag him in the third quarter, and then it never happened.
No, he didn't get tagged. So, Eliza, I don't know if you got any views on that, but he was tagged out of the game for the first 2 weeks, and then he won the Glendenning Allen medal.
Well, Andrew McWalter was literally a tagger during his playing days, and he even joked at the Derby presser on Friday that I was a scrappy little tagger. Why am I employing this more myself as a coach? So I don't know if he's just feeling there isn't someone there to do it and to do it well in that Eagles midfield at the moment, or whether you do have to pull someone out of another line to make it more of a possibility. It's an interesting one, but we sort of asked him, where do you look at in the squad? Who do you look at and think you would make a good tagger? And he didn't really have an answer for that question. So maybe it's just finding the right role for the right person.
Yeah, I reckon Clay Hall was a bit unlucky the week before to go to the side. Probably could have been in there.
Harley Reid the tagger.
Some of that stuff. Harley Reid now. Scully.
Absolutely.
Can we just click that up, please?
No.
Yeah, Scully says Harley Reid
No.
to do a lockdown roll.
You take it out of context. Harley Reid the tagger.
Brilliant stuff, Eliza. Great to chat.
Thanks, guys.
Eliza Reilly there from Code Sports. Love the way she goes about it. Always knows what's going on the ground here in WA. Couple of quick things out of the Derby. We mentioned the tagging stuff. We'll move on from that. And the votes. Always a nervous thing to do, isn't it? Voting on the medal.
I was stressed.
I've been offered a couple of times. I never want to do it because I don't have the lens because I'm doing play-by-play to actually take in everything that's going on like you guys do when you get to sit back and analyse it a bit more.
Yeah, I was doing nothing on the boundary.
I mean, like the pressure though on your shoulders to get it right.
It was, I take it really seriously. Like it's a big honour to win, I think, and so to win it, like you need the votes to be right. So I took it I spent a lot of time on it, more than the other guys. I think they were trying to hurry me up with the votes. I was like, the game's not over. Just let me. And the other one was there was no real proper standout. No 5-goal, no 40-touch game.
Yeah.
A lot of good players out there for Freo. So I think the right man won in the end, though.
Yeah, that's what you're planning on, isn't it? You hope someone's just had it 40 times and kicked 3, and it's an easy 3 votes for everyone. For Freo, Luke Jackson, starring in the ruck right now. Sean Darcy about to come back. Crystal ball, how do you see it playing out? Because Pap Voss has actually played some really good footy, except for his finishing, which hasn't been up to the standard that he would want.
No.
But him marking the footy and being a target's been brilliant. So Darcy comes back in, Jackson goes back forward, Voss goes out of the team. Is that just the way it's going to unfold?
That's how it plays out.
Yeah.
And this has been a discussion the last 2 years. It's the same thing. And Sean Darcy won't be properly fit when he comes back in, so I'm sure he won't play as well as we'd be hoping. And then we'll start asking why aren't they playing Luke Jackson as a standout ruck. It'll be a merry-go-round. And until we see those two guys playing in the same side fit, I don't think we'll have an answer to what's the best fit for Freo. But that's what they want, what you just said.
Yeah, and it's building closer to getting a look at that again in the Fremantle lineup, but they're feeling much better about life right now after a win in Derby number 60. You're on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange, well, let's get to the centre of the footballing universe right now. Scully, we were asking the question earlier on in the season, are the Gold Coast Suns going to make the 8?
I wasn't.
Now we're asking, are they premiership favourites? They are going so well right now, the Suns, as we get to Tommy Rockliff over there in Queensland, of course. 200 gamer in the AFL. For any of your finance needs, check out Rockliff Finance as well. Just chuck it in your Google search and you'll find it well and truly. And he joins us right now. Tommy, great to chat to you. The Suns, what another win for them. 2 on the road to start. Couldn't ask for much more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what they had to do. G'day, gentlemen. It's an impressive start for them. I mean, West Coast on the road. It's a tough trip, no matter where they are on the ladder, particularly coming from this far over up in Queensland, and then to be able to go to the MCG and do what they did to Melbourne is outstanding. So they've set themselves up really well, and we did touch on it that it felt like the time was right for the Gold Coast Suns, and they had all areas on the ground covered. So those running halfbacks have come to it, and their midfield, everyone's starting to take notice now of how good their midfield is, and they just go from strength to strength. I'm
just trying to squeeze this into every chat physically possible. I'm sure you remember, Tom, that I picked Matty Rowell as my Brownlow medalist at the start of the year. He was long odds. He's now into second favourite in the Brownlow medal. Thank you very much, Adam Papalia. But is he going to be at the Suns? Have they left themselves a little short with his contract?
Well, this is the thing. When you overpay talent to come through the doors, which Gold Coast have done for a number of years now, and we know that Mac Andrew, I think he's $1 million or potentially $1 million man that they signed last year. Have they left themselves with enough money for Matty Rowell? He could potentially, as you just said, win the Brownlow medal this year. I think he'll struggle just because there's so many guys that take votes from him, Noah Anderson and guys like that. But you'd hate to see a scenario where they come to the season's end and they've sold themselves short. Matty Rowell is going to demand a really big paycheck. He'd be probably smart to sign a 2-year deal and then leave that window open for Tasmania and potentially sign the biggest deal in AFL history in a couple of years' time. But you would hate to see the Gold Coast Suns lose Matty Rowell, who's he's taken a little bit of time. Obviously, injuries have prevented him from early on in his career when he's hurt his shoulder and stuff, but we knew he was a super talent. He just had to find a way to get some easier footy, which is what he's doing now. In the past, if he had 30 possessions, 28 of them would have been contested, but now he's got the balance right and he's got nice skills on the outside to deliver it inside 50 as well. So, Scully, I don't know how you picked him to win the Brownlow, but Nostradamus.
A little bit of research, actually. I don't know if it is true that he has many taken votes off him. Noah Anderson, yes. Tuke Miller the last couple of years hasn't, although he looks a better player this year than he has the last couple. I don't know who else is getting votes at the Gold Coast Suns, and they're going to be a very good side. So that's how I landed on Matty Rowell. Just the pig in there, just munching on grass, getting ball.
The Angus midfield bull in there. I can just see Matt Rowell flying Brownlow favourite, and then he accidentally pushes someone into a contest later on in the year, gets suspended, and Scully spits chips completely.
I'll actually launch if that happens.
I can see that happening a little bit later on. Suns and Crows this week. Tommy, going to be a massive, massive clash, and again, probably a really good test for both of them.
Yeah, going into the season, who would have predicted that a 12:20 game on a Saturday afternoon at the Gold Coast would have been match of the round between the Gold Coast Suns and the Adelaide Crows? I don't think too many people, we thought they both improved, but this sets up as a mouth-watering contest, doesn't it? The Adelaide Crows, their scoring power in their front half, their midfield's up and going. That they look as powerful in that front half as anyone in the competition. Gold Coast as well, what they were able to do, as I said before, against Melbourne at the MCG. It's going to be a really hot contest. It's match of the round for me. Looking across the board, obviously you've got Collingwood, Carlton. There'll be ramifications from that game if Carlton don't get the job done, and also Melbourne and Geelong down there at GMB, HBA or whatever
Alphabet
it is down
Stadium.
there. Yeah, but I think this sets up as a ripper. I'm leaning towards the Gold Coast first time on their home deck, and we know how hard they are to play there in the past. But Adelaide Crows will turn up and take the game on, which we like, but they also give up score the other way. So if Gold Coast can defend really well, which we know their back six is pretty well set, but this will be their biggest test, I think, both teams for the season. So really looking forward to this one. I'll be there calling it, and match of the round for me.
Yeah, I think it's easily the match of the round. There's some absolute stinkers this weekend, to be honest. Collingwood Carlton will be good on the Thursday, and then anywhere from then it's just Pooparama. So Gold Coast, Adelaide, I like. Hey, Tommy, Brisbane on the other side of things, like the way they started last year, everyone counted them out and they go on and win a flag. I don't think they've started much better this year, other than they're getting the 4 points. But their starts this year in games have been incredibly slow.
They certainly have. I think you don't want to make it become too much of a trend for them. So there's no doubt on the road this week against Richmond, they'll be looking to start fast and put Richmond, because you don't want to give young teams an opportunity to get out, and they can be hard to run down, as we've seen when they got going against Carlton. So they'll be looking to turn that around. I don't see it as a major issue yet. They were able to overcome them last year in finals, and they went on to win a grand final when they were caught themselves behind. So there is a bit of a watch on the Brisbane Lions starts at the moment. Yes, they've come from behind, but they've been good enough to get back in the contest. And you don't want to be known as that Chautauqua horse that can get themselves into a little bit of trouble rounding the bend and not be able to catch teams down the home straight. So for Brisbane, I think they'll identify it on the road this week and put that to bed.
We saw them do it obviously well in the final series last year, but it's that one that you leave it a little bit too late to actually get it done.
Can I just ask one more before we let you go? Mate, last week we threw it on you. Basically, it had been announced while you were in your car that the new stadium was happening in Queensland. You would have seen a few of the architectural sort of imaginations of it. Is that going to be in a good location, and are people in Queensland and Brisbane happy about that?
Well, location-wise, I'm not sure, Scully. It's not an easy venue to get in and out of, Vic Park. So it's sort of in the middle of the city. No real access to freeways. So it's a bit of a challenging position, but who knows, mate? Governments these days, they love to spend, so they might as well build some more public transport and whatnot. They've just built a massive bus station right next to the Gabba and now taking the venue away in 5 or 6 years' time. So it's not ideal placement, but I think it's going to be a world-class facility, and that's what Brisbane probably needs about now with the growth in population.
Yeah, you might be having a grand final up there in years to come. Why not?
No,
Gold Coast,
MCG's locked that away.
Gold Coast and Brisbane, given they're just going to win everything for the next 5 years, the way they're going right now. Tommy, great to chat to you, mate. As always, enjoy it up there. Both teams are flying.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would have thought that the Queensland would be the footy state in front of WA?
Well, I think Andrew Dillon's pretty happy about it. Thank you, mate.
Good on you, gents.
The Northern States going very, very well right now.
The academies.
The academies. Cost of living allowances, and you get that back in as well.
Yes.
Just give them a bit more of a leg up.
Cola.
Father-son rule, don't get me started.
We're going to do a session, I reckon, at some time this year. You're worried about me and how I'm going. I'm going to bring some items to the table that I know fire you up. Father-son, the advantage rule.
What else? They're the main two for me.
I could get you going so
They're the main
easily.
two for me. If I'm ever calling a game and there's a bad advantage in it, I just...
You hold your tongue on TV, but I can get you going on radio pretty easily.
That's true. I do bristle a little bit with that rule because it just is a farce. Anyway, let's have a pet peeves podcast a little bit later on, and everyone can just set in what gets them angry.
Like it.
Or angry enough. Plenty to chat here on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange as we head to Victoria now to chat and check in with Drew Jones from Fox Sports and from GOAT Fantasy as well. Looking forward to seeing how his team's going right now with all the latest news. Late changes I know Scully's not happy about. I'm sure that's affecting Drew a little bit as well, with some teams better than others in terms of those late changes. But let's chat first, Drew, about some of those teams that are just feeling the heat a little bit more. Let's start with the Blues, of course, still winless to start this year.
Yeah, it hasn't been ideal for the Blues. And hello, gentlemen. Great to be with you as always. I mean, Thursday night footy, 270-odd meetings between Carlton and Collingwood. As far as a footy storyline, Michael Voss and Craig McRae, premiership teammates going head-to-head in what just feels like such a massive game for the Blues. 0-4 on the table for them in a year that was promised so much. And the Pies have looked really good the last few weeks. They get to refresh with the bye after 3 games in 12 days. But just from a Blues perspective, this Richmond loss is just looking worse and worse by the week. It was always going to be a challenging start to the season. On another day, maybe they'd beat the Dogs. They were certainly competitive against Hawthorn, but probably weren't ever going to win that game. I've just looked ahead a little bit, boys. I think they're going to be 2-9 at the bye.
Boy.
On current form. Maybe they could sneak a win on Good Friday against North Melbourne, but at the moment, they've got probably a win against West Coast. They should beat the Saints, but they're probably going a little better than we thought. And then, the Crows game looks a lot harder on paper than it did. North Melbourne looks harder on paper than it did. So they could be 3-8, 2-9 at the bye. Carlton is a club that likes to make swift decisions and they want to win. So the pressure will continue to rise. There's certainly a chance Thursday night, but the Pies are the form team. So just a watch on the Blues because I think they're going to be a talking point most weeks.
I reckon that the list is as much of the issue that it is, I guess, coaching, structure and strategy. Like,
yep.
You can only do so much with the list that they have, and they've got an inside contested ball-winning mix and list, and the sides that are going well this year are sides that can attack and take the game on in GWS and Hawthorn and Adelaide, and these sides that look so electric. Carlton doesn't have that gear. It doesn't matter who's in charge of it, in my opinion. What's the update of on Harry Mackay? Because he's missed the last couple of weeks. Could we expect to see him against Collingwood?
There is growing optimism that we'll see Harry Mackay this week. I could be made to look a little bit silly, but I think the expectation is that he'll train this evening for Carlton. So I think we all hope that he's back and he's feeling better, and Carlton will be a better side with him in it. But we just hope that he's in a good space mentally. So let's see about tonight. But the sense that I get is that there's a real chance that we'll see him on Thursday night against the Pies at the MCG. So that's a big boost for the Blues. Interesting you made that point, Sky, about the cattle and the list. I think the general consensus from the wider football public is that the Blues do have a list to contend. I reckon if you ask, clearly yourself and others, Nathan Buckley made the point last Friday on AFL Tonight with us. He didn't expect the Blues to make the finals this year. And just the decision to draft Jagger Smith and not go after a big name and trade away that first round pick, that maybe that's just a slight window into the fact that the Blues know some topping up is required.
Still trying to improve that list before having another tilt at it. I guess it comes from the expectation, doesn't it, of making prelims and being in the finals in the recent couple of seasons. Drew, a bit of news coming through today, unfortunately, really disappointing it seems for a West Aussie. He's just got his chance, but looks like might have gone down with injury.
Yeah, Tom Edwards sounds like he's gone down with an ACL injury at training today. So often we talk about the fact that sometimes clubs just know straight away, and I guess that would be the same for the athlete. But reporting from Tom Morris today that at Essendon training, Edwards has hurt his knee, and it looks like he's out with the ACL. So just shocking news. What's been one of our favourite stories of the season so far, coming from a long way back, school teacher to playing at the MCG and kicking a few on debut. So really sad for Essendon, who are looking for good young players to try and rebuild this list. Unfortunately, Tom won't be involved for the rest of the season.
I've been interested watching Max Gawn through the media this week, and the Demons as a whole. Like, are they not where we thought they'd be, or is this I don't know? Is this just I guess what they are? I don't know. Where are the Demons at the moment?
So I reckon when we spoke in the first ever episode of the Footy Interchange, I said the Demons are going to be one of the teams that we're watching this year and are under a little bit of pressure But I think the pressure is more about, can we see something fresh? Can we see something different? The game style, the way that they lose has just been a bit same. And also, can they get the football club sort of back on track? So off the field, at the club, it feels like they're starting to put the pillars in place. And then you come into round one, there's a lot of optimism around 5 debutants, some young players coming in, freshening up the place. And they were pretty good against GWS round one, but the goodwill just wearing off the last couple of weeks, a couple of poor performances. And then the whole Goodwin-Gawn thing was just a bit messy. So calls from David King about breaking up the Beatles. It's a nice line. I found that entertaining and creative. But ultimately, they've already brought in Langford. Xavier Lindsay's hurt his knee, hopefully not too serious. Henderson they've brought through to play some midfield minutes. They've brought in Sharp from the Lions, Aiden Johnson out of Werribee. So that they've got new guys in there. Clayton Oliver's always going to play as an inside mid, and they made the decision as a club, we're not going to trade you. Christian Petrarca, same deal. So they're committed to those two. So they're not going to break up the Beatles. Those two are their midfield. And then Gawn's gone. He's a 15,000-time All-Australian, one of the greatest to have done it in recent memory in the ruck. And then Jack Viney looks like he might be slowing down slightly, but also, let's not write him off because he's been, a premiership hero for them. So they're already kind of in the process of freshening things up, but ultimately they're just not playing very well. And their footy right now probably isn't top 8 capable. So they're going to miss the finals and they're going to hopefully get some games and kids. And I think that's what we have to expect.
Yeah, tough times for D supporters with everything going on. And strong midfield, really strong backline with Lever and May there, but they just haven't got the results in recent times. Been able to put a score on the board. Fantasy-wise, Drewy, Goat Fantasy, where people can check it out. What have you got for us?
Well, the big one this week is Tristan Xerri. So, he's a talking point for a couple of reasons. So, I'm sure you would have seen the vision against the Crows. Grabs the hamstring during a ruck contest, just overstretching. Spoke to North Melbourne yesterday. They said he's all fine. They expect him to play. We won't see him until Thursday on the training tracks. I'm trying to pull a few levers to make sure I end up at Arden Street on Thursday. But he's scoring the last couple of weeks against Max Gawn. He played well but didn't score well. And then last week, Reilly O'Brien's always a tough opponent. If he does have a bit of hamstring awareness, is there a temptation here to pull the trigger on Tristan with Rowan Marshall scoring big in good form? Kieran Briggs is a live option for us. He probably doesn't have the scoring ceiling of other ruckmen, but because he had that concussed game earlier in the year, his price has dropped significantly. So this time of year, it's hard to make upgrades in your team. But if you feel like you want to jump off Tristan Xerri, you can make a bit of money and then bump someone up and get a better player in elsewhere for perhaps a similar scoring output. So he's the interesting one this week, a little bit of a watch. If you're heavily invested in Tristan Xerri like I am, I'm hoping for good news about the hamstring, but he is a big decision for maybe a few teams around the place this week.
I feel physically sick. I chased a higher captain score, given I've got him in the side to average over 120. I had 113 from McRae sitting there, vice captain Loop. Chased more, saw him do his hammy. Right, okay, North is saying he did his hammy. And I was just wanting to throw up. I wanted to spew up like Terry Wallace. But he did well to battle on for 75. I'm backing him in. I want a 140 out of him. But it's tough times in fantasy land right now.
I like the matchup this week with Brodie Grundy at Marvel. I think, if he's fit to play, I expect him to score well. But yeah, it's concerning when you see someone you've invested so much of your salary cap or draft capital in grab the hamstring like that.
Please stop reminding me.
Goat Fantasy is the place to go for all that late-breaking fantasy news, particularly if Drew Jones is at Arden Street a little bit later on in the week. Drew, great to chat to you, mate, as always.
On you, boys. Go well.
Drew Jones there in Victoria here on the Footy Interchange. Well, let's head across now to New South Wales because Cal Sinclair is our man on the ground. Of course, former Swans ruckman, a couple other clubs as well. But he joins us right now. Cal, great to have a chat to you, mate. Footy in New South Wales has been going pretty well this season, but I want to start chatting about your former side in the Sydney Swans first. I think almost every week we've spoken on this podcast, it's been Chad Warner. Is he staying? Is he going? What's actually happening? I don't think we're any clear. We thought he was going to go to Sydney, and then last week he's been in Perth, and now he's not unsure. Is this just a good marketing ploy? Is adding a few more extra zeros to the contract? What's your read on it?
Yeah, potentially. You are right. We probably keep going around in circles on this one. It probably becomes a little bit embarrassing for what content that I'm delivering about. But I did think it was quite interesting. There was reports through the AFL that came out that saying that they would be surprised if he didn't sign at Sydney. And then he lands in Perth and Perth media grab him and he left the door wide open. Look, some of it could be, I guess, a little bit of theatre. But if I was Chad, I would probably recommend to him, mate, you're in no rush. You might as well just see how the year, I guess, plays out. You've got a cracking deal on the table there at the Swans, but also, you've got an incredible life-changing deal that you've got there at West Coast Eagles. But I think he would probably want to see where the Swans are going to land over the next kind of maybe 10 weeks, because if that window is closing in on them, which we still don't know where they're at just yet, that might make his decision to go over West. But as we all know, the West Coast Eagles are probably, a fair while away from, I guess, being finals contenders.
Very quiet from those that were sprouting that Chad Warner was out signing with Sydney. I haven't heard a lot from those types, but people like me who said he's out the door, I've been trumpeting, look at this interview, Chad's going home.
There was a lot of retweeting going on.
Well, it's actually, despite what everyone says, I think, and this is not a criticism to Chad, but, he's quite calculated, and I reckon he probably would have been a little bit cheeky on the side and kind of did that interview purposely. Just put a little bit of seed of doubt in the Swans' mind, and I reckon it worked.
They've got a pretty big game this weekend, the Swans, against North Melbourne, the shin boners. Luke Parker with his revenge game, potentially. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I'd say this is, I don't know if it's going to be year defining, but the Swans need to get momentum and consistency going. They haven't been, in history since when I was there, great performers after the bye. So I reckon that would be something that Dean Cox would be smashing this week, saying we have to start well. It was a real theme that we never ever won a game after a bye. So Luke Parker, I think he'll be out there hungry as ever, but it's probably a bit of a danger game for the Swans because I think really North Melbourne, they're kind of playing at the moment like they've got nothing to lose. I thought Kane Corn's comments to them against Adelaide was a little bit harsh in my view. I think Adelaide are probably arguably the second best team in the competition at the moment. But I am tipping the Swans to get over this, to get over the Kangas, but I think it's going to be by a very narrow margin.
Did you ever think you'd see Luke Parker not in a Swans jumper? He just seemed like he was Sydney through and through. We've seen it with Jack Darling.
Yeah.
Obviously,
it is
North.
It is interesting. I actually did think about this the other day that I think if you asked Luke probably 12 months ago, you'd be playing your football at Arden Street, I reckon he would have spewed and completely laughed at you. He probably had the perspective that he'd be a Swanee for life. But look, things have changed. That midfield just took over a 12-month period. He probably was a little bit unlucky. He had a nasty injury there. He copped that really bad suspension for about, I think it was maybe around the 4 or 5 week mark, which kind of pushed him out of the side. But look, from a commercial point of view, I think it's a great decision that he went to the Kangas, but I don't believe it was something he anticipated going into his last year at Sydney.
How many are we expecting at the Giants-Eagles game this weekend, Cinco? Is this a whitewash waiting to happen, or is there a boil-over on the way and West Coast can come out and smack the Giants?
Well, it's going to be, look, if you're the Giants, this is going to be a real, and I mean this with all due respect, but they would be looking at this game going, let's just put foot to the throat and get a massive percentage booster. And I reckon they'd be pretty disappointed going down to the Hawks, particularly with the wind advantage that they didn't take full advantage of in the second half there in Tasmania. But look, if I'm the West Coast Eagles, you're probably going, it's going to be a long trip for them. I think it's safe to say that the Giants are going to walk over them pretty easily. But look, I think all you want from West Coast is to be competitive. But I think for Giants, you'll be once again, they'll be disappointed after the clash against Hawthorn, and mate, it could get nasty.
Brilliant stuff, Cal. Thank you very much, mate. We were asking before for those watching on YouTube. We've lost a headset this week. What's going on?
Can you bring it back?
Yeah, well, next week I'll bring it back, mate, and we'll I might even have a second prop to.
Bring some props. I want props because right now you look great.
Bring some wings.
Mate, you look brilliant now. It's a great. It's almost too good. You look too good. I want to see some props next week, please.
Yeah, mate, will do. But I'm just trying to earn a living in Sydney, mate, and it's a tough one, so I've got to look respectable.
Brilliant stuff,
Thanks,
mate.
guys.
Great to chat. Cal Sinclair over there in Sydney. Always great to chat to him, find out what's going on. The Chad Warner stuff's interesting, how that's switched quite a bit.
Well, what do you think?
No one's really sure.
What's happening? Give me
My insight would be that.
You got some insight.
Well, like my reading, not insight. Sorry, probably the wrong one.
Something across the desk.
My read on it would be like it's pure marketing and strategy from him. Like, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket if you're still negotiating a contract and trying to get as much value out of it as you can. If you say you're still open, even if you've made your mind up, you keep saying that, I might go, because all it's going to do is make the clubs offer you more. Isn't that how you win at the negotiating table?
I don't know Chad well enough, but I don't know if he has that in him. It just looked like he was being so honest. It didn't look to me like it was, I'm going to give this interview and I'm going to plant some more seeds of doubt in Sydney's mind, or plant some seeds of optimism in West Coast mind. I think he was just being honest.
Yeah.
I think
you just don't have to commit yet. That's the thing.
Yeah, I know.
As Sinker was saying there, it's like just leave it open for a bit longer. And if you get a few more dollars out of it, then it works well.
What I will say is the Oscar Allen Harley Reid chats, that won't be helping. I don't think that'll be helping getting Chad to the football club if that's what West Coast are trying to do. I think that players are motivated by winning. And if he's going to come to West Coast, yes, there'll be the go-home factor. Yes, there'll be the money factor. But he's going to get paid at Sydney too.
Yeah.
I think he will want to win. So they will need good players in order to do so.
It's kind of chicken and the egg stuff, isn't it? Like, because if you can get Chad Warner in the door, you think Oscar Allen's more likely to stay.
Yes.
And maybe Harley as well.
Yes.
Or whichever one you sign up first, it helps to entice the other one to come in. You just don't want to be left without getting any of them.
At least we can have something to talk about with West Coast this year, Paps.
Absolutely. We wish Callum well covering the Eagles game on the weekend if he's on deck for ABC Radio as well, trying to... Well, wait and see. What margin do you reckon?
I was close to flying over for it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to anymore. Margin, I just stay safe around sort of 10 goals. Like, it's not often you see, one of the best sides in the comp against the worst, beaten by 150.
No McGovern.
I mean, one of the last times West Coast were in Sydney, it didn't go too well with over a 200-point loss.
Yeah.
No McGovern hurts. I'll just stay with 10 goals. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems about right.
To the Giants.
When you said upset, you couldn't keep a straight face. We wait and see. Hopefully they can be competitive as they head across to New South Wales as well. You're on the Footy Interchange. The Footy Interchange, Scully. Now it is time to get an injury update, thanks to front runner physio there in Osborne Park with Steve Gravina, of course, former physio in the AFL. He knows everything about the injuries that are going on, and there's so much happening at the moment. A few that we want to get stuck in on. Jeremy McGovern first. Steve, great to chat to you, mate. A groin injury, possibly a significant one, kind of the injury that West Coast can't really afford right now to one of their key backs.
Yeah, disappointing for Jeremy, obviously. We talked about it last week. We were worried that something might come off that long road trip to Brisbane in those hot conditions. And unfortunately, Gov's got a few risk factors, being that veteran athlete and playing such a key role. So he was the one that come unstuck. It would have been obviously related to the fatigue that he would have induced from that travel game. Then late in the game, I think he had that little head knock, which caused him to get off the ground, probably cool down for a little bit, go back out there under fatigue, and unfortunately, the adductor longus muscle by the looks is the one that's given. So, wait for the information from the club, but I'd imagine 3 to 4 weeks minimum. You don't want to rush one of these back, especially a veteran athlete like Gov. So he's an important guy for the team, and you want him for the second half of the year.
Yeah, you'd assume that age has a little bit to do with that as well, and especially with the recovery, you're likely to take maybe one more week than you would with someone a little whippersnapper. Now, Josh Rochelle at Adelaide, mate. Oh, look, I'm perhaps for what it's worth, surprised that anyone around this incident wasn't suspended for 3 weeks, given that he backed back into a pack and got a knee to his ribs. I'm being facetious, of course, but he's broken 3 of his ribs, Steve. What's the rehab like for this? Because I know sometimes it can be a bit murky with broken and cracked ribs.
Yeah, it really depends on the severity of the ribs and the location as well. So obviously I don't know the full intel, but the club got on the front foot pretty quickly and said they're not going to rush Josh back. Minimum 4 weeks at least. And if it's that kind of injury, and that severity where they're pretty quick to say, he's not going to play in the next couple, then it's more than those little cracks that you hear of guys that are playing through. So you really got to wait for bone healing, and that's a 6-week, synopsis. Early days, it's incredibly painful. Like any kind of movement, I'm sure you've had them before, Scully. Like you can't sleep, you can't lay on your side, you can't roll over in bed, you struggle to breathe. So the ability to keep his fitness up is going to be a challenge in the first few weeks. You really just got to, put him on ice for a week or two, let things settle down, and then as pain allows him, start to build back up. But he's out of contact for at least a month, and then you roll the dice whether you bring him back before that 6 weeks, because the bone's going to be a little bit vulnerable to contact if you get that sort of perfect hit.
How many times have you played with a broken rib, Scully?
A little bit, yeah. Steve would have made a few guards up for me in his time, I reckon. Both at the front and at the back and near my spine. I actually had quite a few. It's you talking about it, mate, like made me wince. Like they're not good.
Look, I think for guys like yourself, I guess, where you're sitting under hangers left, right and centre, you're at risk. But then for little guys like Josh, it doesn't take a lot. Like the speed of the game these days, guys are coming in from all sorts of angles. And if you get a knee or if you get a hip to that area, it's a very exposed area. And, unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of them. So you've got to take the time, let the bones heal up, and he'll be back better than ever. But you don't want to rush it.
Cody Waitman, you gave us some really good insight into last week, Steve, and looks like a little bit of a setback, or the time frame just being managed for him still pretty unclear.
Yeah, disappointing. But, we were chatting that, he had to have that surgery 6 weeks ago, and then the Bulldogs have communicated that he had to have another bout of surgery at the end of last week. So, that pushes the time frame way back again. Not sure the details as to why things didn't go well with that first round of surgery, but anytime you're going under the knife again, it means that there's going to be a short-term period where you've got to allow the post-surgical healing to occur and then start to reload it. But, he's lost now a huge chunk of time. So mid-year at best return, and, hopefully we see him again this year, because it's becoming a bit of a concern.
Hey, Steve, this is a question without notice, but I know you'll have some sort of answer for me. So Oscar Allen springs to mind a little bit. He's missed a fair bit of the preseason and now looks to be playing, I think, a bit behind the 8 ball in what he's doing. And I just say on the West, like Harley Reid sort of seems not at his full fitness. And you look at other players around the league that aren't at their full fitness base. When you were at the footy club or now in your role now with front runner physiotherapy in Aussie Park, would you be in support of taking a week or two away to build up a fitness base, or is it just something you got to manage week to week and almost hope for the best that each game that you put in front of each other that you're actually getting fitter? Like, do you understand the question?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the age-old debate. We'd spend hours debating these kind of situations, and it becomes not just a medical decision or a fitness decision; it becomes a club decision a lot of the time as well, and how important the players are for the performance of the team and the brand of being out there. Realistically, can you pull a player out and get them conditioned for match levels in season? Really difficult. I think we've chatted before, like trying to get, match conditioning on your own or with a small rehab group is really, really challenging. You can go back to the WAFL or the VFL and play at a slightly lower level, and you're probably less at risk because the speed and size of the guys are going to be less. But trying to manufacture a mini pre-season on your own in season is really challenging. Where you probably need to have the guts to make the big call is not bringing back round one, if they're not quite ready. So if they've had a compromised pre-season, we always knew our stats would suggest, your greatest survival rate of getting through a year is if you played all the minutes in your pre-season games. The best chance of playing your pre-season games is getting a full pre-season in. So if you haven't got that full pre-season in and not ready to play those games, then, round 2, round 3, round 4 return is a sensible option. But when round 1 comes around, everyone wants their players there. And, that's the temptation by the coaching staff and the club as a whole to bring these guys in.
Good answer.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sure those conversations with the coaches go really smoothly all the time, Steve.
It's always a battle, mate. Always a battle. Then you need the player as well to help you out at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, great to chat, mate. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, guys.
Injury update there. Thanks to front runner physio in Osborne Park, right here on the Footy Interchange. Well, we head now across to South Australia. Sim Thomas Wilson is from the Adelaide Advertiser and from Code Sports as well. The Crows, they are absolutely flying at the moment, Scully. They are one of the... Are they a surprise packet, you reckon, this year? Or were we kind of expecting them to jump up?
No, they've surprised me. I can't claim that I had them going as well as they are.
I had them in the 8, but they're going extremely well. Their scoring power, unbelievable. But Sim is with us from over there in South Australia. I imagine all the Crow supporters are pretty up and about at the moment. Are we calling it yet? I've asked you a few times over the last week. Are they the real deal?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I think this is going to be the game that will prove to us if they're the real deal or not. I don't think we've ever been as excited about a Crows v Gold Coast game, especially on a Saturday lunchtime start. This is it's going to be a fascinating clash. You got the two probably best attacking teams in the comp at the moment going against each other. Gold Coast midfield looks unreal, and the Crows midfield is going pretty well as well. So, yeah, the Crows did what they needed to do against North Melbourne. You know, they probably didn't play that well, but they got the win. You know, it's like 36 points in the end, so that's a big bonus for them. They're still trying to keep a lid on it down at Westlakes, I can tell you that. But the fans are getting excited, but I reckon if they beat Gold Coast away, then they're the real deal.
I agree with that. Gold Coast have been good on the road this year, though. One win at Optus Stadium and one at the MCG, which is 2 more than they've ever been able to do, pretty much. So we'll see how they go with that. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, Sim. Zach Butters, chance to come back for Port, and can he save the Power?
Yeah, so Butters, in the good news for the Power, Butters pretty much got through training today. He took part in match sim as well, so he's doing everything he needs to do to come back early from the preseason knee surgery. The bad news for the Power is their season is almost on the edge at the moment. Like, if Butters can come back, it's a big boost for them. But you look at their run after this game against St Kilda, like they've got to win this game. They've got Hawthorn and Gav around, and then it's Sydney. They go to Sydney. They go to Ballarat to play the Bulldogs. There's a showdown in there. There's Geelong at Adelaide Oval. There's GWS away as well. There's Freo away. That's as hard as the run gets after this game against St Kilda. So Port are going to need Butters back, and they're going to be up against it to get their season back on track, even with him, I reckon. Yeah,
you feel like for Port they need all of their stars performing at a really high level. We maybe haven't seen the best of Jason Horne-Francis yet.
No, it's been a bit of an interesting start to the season for Jason Horne-Francis. So many expected, I did as well, expected him to really go to the next level after his year last year. He was absolutely tearing it up in pre-season. Like, he looked like the Power's best player for most of pre-season, and just so far he's just looked a bit off. Like, he was good in the fourth quarter against Essendon. He nearly won the game for them. You know, he was the only player that really looked like doing something for them. But so far, he just has seemed a bit off. He's been missing. He's been dropping marks you'd normally take. He's not having the impact with the ball. And we all like to now analyse body language, don't we? He's looking. Yeah, his body language is now being scrutinised. Is he chasing back enough? Yeah, it's really interesting what's going on with him. Ken today said he's fine, and I think they're just backing him in to bounce back. But yeah, there's definitely been hasn't been the level we thought he'd be at so far.
Oh, I think he looks better with Rosie and Butters in the side because it allows him to play the third midfielder. He can push forward a bit more. But with him as a secondary midfielder next to Rosie, I just think there's more pressure, and I think it's a better midfield mix with them all there, clearly. So we'll see if he's going any better. Hey, before you go, Sim, are we too far out from gather round to start getting excited about it? Like, we're 8 days away. Does anyone care yet, or what's going on?
I'm not going, so I'm not excited about it. I know Scully is. You're in the thick of it, Sim.
Yeah, I think the excitement's slowly building up now. We had Andrew Dillon was he was out at Norwood today. They've got Birds of Tokyo. They're going to the Norwood Food and Wine Festival on the Sunday before the St Kilda GWS game. So that'll be fun to watch. They might do the West Coast Steagles.
Yes, there you go, Sim. You saw me laughing. I tell you what, if they do a rendition of the old West Coast Eagles theme song, that'll bring Norwood to its knees.
Is this their sign that they've just they've cut WA off completely now that West Coast have got rid of their version of the song, and they've gone to South Australia now, and they're going to do a remix of the Port version?
There was a bizarre video. He was in the shower with sunnies on. I'm not sure what's going on there, but mate, I hope you get down to that, Sim. I might catch you next week at Gather Round.
Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much.
Good. Thanks, guys.
Sim Thomas Wilson there from the Adelaide Advertiser and Code Sports there in South Australia.
Flying high. That's the new one. Sorry.
That's
that's the old.
That's
new
the
one.
old new one. Strange scenario, that whole
great.
thing, isn't it? Brilliant stuff. Thanks very much to Sim there on the Footy Interchange. Footy Interchange, as we get to some of your feedback before we finish up. We've got lots of great questions and really good interaction from our listeners coming through, which is awesome, Scully. So people can hit us up on X each week. If you've got a question that you want to send through on a Tuesday morning, we'll endeavour to get to it, or you can leave it in the comments on YouTube as well. First one coming through from Desert Rat says, hey, Paps, tomorrow or today on the Footy Interchange, after Will Schofield rants on about the state of the AFL and bans for pushing in a contest, because that's what he used to do and still happens 100 times around, can you please explain the concept of duty of care to him?
Thank you, Desert Rat. Happy for you to provide that sort of explanation to me. I think a duty of care is owed to AFL players currently, with some clarity around what you can and can't do. If we want to talk about duty of care, I don't think players know what they can and can't do. So is that a position, an employment position, an industry position that's showing care to players? This is a contact sport. You cannot mitigate against contact unbecoming from actions, right? That's why you need to suspend poor actions like striking and jumping off the ground and shouldering someone to the jaw, those sorts of things.
But you can't suspend people for every push that happens in a game of footy.
Absolutely right, because that's why it's an outcome-based thing. So you either... I don't think you should be suspending at all for these pushes. I don't think you can rule against them.
I don't know.
That's my.
I can explain it in terms of duty of care because I'm a bit unsure about this one as well. I'm kind of with Scully in that you can't litigate against everything. The thing that really irks me the most is the fact that this wasn't a suspension a month ago when we saw it happen in the pre-season, and then the rules get changed and a memo gets sent out as the season goes on. Like I don't like seeing that move in season as we go.
Yeah, I just think it's a very dangerous position to get yourself into if every player on the AFL field is first and foremost thinking about others before their own actions. It is a high impact, as fast as of a game as you could get. Decisions are made as quickly as possible. If you're putting others before yourself, it puts yourself in danger. I couldn't be more heavily against this, but I'm also a bit sick and tired of people telling me I'm wrong. So.
The 360-degree nature of the game
leads
to these types of incidents. The one thing I think the Tigers should argue at the tribunal is the actual contact that they've graded it as. Like, I don't quite understand how you can grade it as high contact when the contact was actually to the body of the player.
Don't worry about where the eyes of Mansell is. If you watch the eyes of O'Connell, he was always going back with a flight. He got a shove. Absolutely he did. But if you watch his eyes, he's just eyes for the ball, which is just like outrageous courage. And you're never going to question that. Has he shown a duty of care for himself? Probably not. But is he going to get suspended for not showing a duty of care for himself? Like, it's just ridiculous.
If you want to see Scully go full rant on this, check out the Shelter Footycast from Monday as well. You can check it out there. Mark Edwards, the pastor on X, always very vocal Freo supporter, says Murphy is the better read.
Murphy is a very good player.
Is the better read than Harley or Archer or Ethan?
Or Phil. Look, I think he looks like a really good player. Great pickup by Freo.
His poise in traffic and ability to handball creatively and to place kicks into the forward line for a guy in his third game was very impressive.
What I will say is where you drafted doesn't dictate your success in the AFL. As soon as you walk in the door, it's how you handle yourself. Can you listen? Can you take advice from coaches? And can you adapt to the speed of the game? And if you can't get yourself in physical right conditions, you're not going to succeed in the AFL. So whether you're number one draft pick in Harley or a pick 20-ish in Murphy or in terms of 20 there, their success is on themselves now. Don't worry about where they were drafted. So Murphy Reid looks like a gun.
Tonga Bob leads into what my next point was going to be as well and says, how soon can a body of work be used to justify a Rising Star nomination? I'd say 3 games, but I'm no expert.
Well, what do you say? Because I'd like you to answer that one.
Well, I think he should have got the Rising Star nomination in round 1.
Who?
But they gave it to Sam Lawler. I mean, kicked 4 goals in 6 minutes. You never see that happen. Yes. But they gave it to Lawler, number 1 pick. Big game, Richmond Carlton, I understand, but, I would have given it to him this week because he was very good on the weekend.
He'll get one soon.
He should, but, yeah,
Also in Western Australia, aren't we? So
Yeah, a little bit off Broadway when it's the last game on
Laura Kane was in the house
Sunday as well.
at the Derby.
Could have been.
She was on the bench, I believe.
I think my understanding was very close to getting a nomination a few weeks ago. Phil Carroll says on X, directed at you, Scully, allegiances aside, what would Scully's thoughts have been if his captain was meeting with rival coaches during a footy season? Regardless of his contract status, does he find that acceptable? Scully seems like the type of teammate that wouldn't have stood for it.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think in my playing days, I would have been disappointed. Yeah.
You mentioned the situation with Chris Judd.
Yeah, I think
you were a young player at that time.
Yeah. I think Chris Judd was probably a bit different. It was my first year, and I was sort of like, well, Juddy can do what he likes. So that's probably a good indication that as a young player, you don't really understand it. But as those mid-tier players that Oscar Allen being at the football club dictates your success and failure because he's your captain. You want your best players there, don't you? So, yeah, you'd be disappointed. And perhaps if it's okay, I will just continue clipping people. For people that think, all right, because I can tell the tone in that question, that you think that I'm somehow biased and allegiances to West Coast, I just say how it is. Whether I'm West Coast or Freo or anyone else, I just say what I think. It just does my head in that people think, well, I used to play there, he's going to look after the players, or he hates the football club. No, I just say what I think, and it's usually right too, Paps. Thank you very much.
Just that last little bit added in as well. I do agree with Scully. He says what he thinks no matter what, and if it's going to offend people or not, I will stick up for you there, mate. I want you to tell me what you actually think here too.
I will, don't worry. I haven't read any of these questions.
Reedy32 on X says, and I know you, a few other people have said this in the media as well in the last 12 to 24 hours. If Oscar Allen did meet with Sam Mitchell, hand in the captaincy, not the leader the kids need, says Reedy.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big one of, okay, where does Oscar Allen sit right now within the playing group? Because in the end, I think that's the most important part. If you're the captain, if you just think about Oscar Allen, his first and foremost responsibility is to his playing group. So should he hand in the captaincy? No. Should he speak to his players and be absolutely brutally honest with them? Yes. And from that discussion, if there was suddenly a revolt or if there was suddenly his players, I think opening it right up to them and saying, what do you think? You want me to be captain? If they say, nah, we want Duggo as the sole captain, I think you've got to fall on your sword. But it only happens with an open conversation. Personally, I don't think that it's necessary. But if his teammates do, then yes.
Have an open conversation. Don't.
If his teammates don't want him as captain, then he can't be captain.
Chats. Yeah.
That's the only people you need to answer to, not fans or the club or the coach. You don't need to answer to anyone in life when you're a football player other than your teammates first. You have responsibilities outside of that, but your allegiances, if you want to use that word as someone else was, lie with your teammates first.
Joe says on X, I've got a feeling Will Schofield will blame West Coast Eagles. They didn't give Tom Barrass more money and now not giving Oscar the big dollars. Both close mates with him. He'll go into bat for his mates. However, if Scully was running the list management at West Coast, it might be a different story.
Well, Joe, I'm just, again, saying what I think, mate. So if you think I'm wrong and West Coast should have paid TB less to stay and he somehow owed West Coast something, well, please tell me. But this is a business. West Coast did stuff his contract around and he walked out the door. That's all facts. It doesn't matter if I'm mates with him or not. This is just a reality of how it is. So there's a certain undercurrent of West Coast fans who think that somehow everyone owes something to the footy club. I mean, what they owe is a winning culture and to win games of footy. That's what you're owed as fans. And right now what they're doing in there doesn't provide that. And if I'm in the media giving you sugar-coated, washed-down versions of events because I used to play at West Coast, then you can just kiss me straight out the door because I'm not going to do that, Adam Papalia.
They could have used Tom Barrass on the weekend.
You've deliberately put these
as
in
well.
To fly me up. I didn't give you enough off the top.
Not at all. I thought I checked in on your welfare first before getting you to launch again. Evan505 says, can West Coast fans gagging over luring Chad Warner also not complain about Oscar and Harley considering moving clubs?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I just think the environment is changing rapidly and very soon. I reckon within the next 2 years, it's just going to be free for all, open slather. Quicker we get there, probably the better because it's not going to go backwards. It's not going to go the other way.
US sports style.
Yep.
David Gars says, how many more chances do some of the senior players at West Coast get before they get sent into the waffle?
What do you think?
Who have you got to bring in?
That's the problem.
That's the issue. I just don't think there's those, and we haven't had much waffle footy being played yet of players being able to put their name up to get there. But it's a strange balance they've got to try and hit right now.
I think really disappointingly, if Andrew McWalter's got to come out 3 weeks into his tenure at the club and say senior players are out of form and multiple, like why? Like what's the excuse? If you're a senior player, you don't have the excuse of not being in good form. Tim Kelly's been one that's targeted, but Oscar Allen's not in good form. Gov probably didn't start the season as well as he would have hoped, although under a lot of pressure in the back line, but we've seen him stand up to that in the past. Jaden Hunt, he's a senior player. I think he's been, have not seen him to levels he got to the last couple of years. He's top 5 in the best and fairest last year.
Yep.
They have a lot of players out of form, and I don't know what the excuse is there.
Do we know what their game plan is yet?
No.
That's. I feel like we haven't got a sense of what their identity is trying to be.
Hard to show that when yet players aren't executing it.
Yeah.
You can't just put it up on a board, can you?
No.
You need to have players
have to
that
actually
execute it.
See it. And last one, Mitchell's trying to get these nicknames to stick. Says Pappy and Shkosef need both of your thoughts on team selection. We've seen 3 games now with a similar lineup, more experienced players with pretty terrible results. This goes to last question as well. But what is West Coast's version of putting games into youth? We are stunting development of the next brigade.
Playing a fair bit of youth, I think.
You can't play all of them at once.
Harry Edwards being subbed on the weekend was bizarre.
Yeah,
I'll be strong on that. He's your fullback.
Yeah, you need him to be your fullback.
Well, you've made that decision. Tom Barrass is out the door, so he's your fullback. It's not even need, like he is. So I don't understand the thought around subbing him out. He hasn't ever been the guy. He's intermittently played with Gav and TB and one or the other, and he's never been the guy. And the only way you improve as a key backman in the AFL is playing in the AFL, not in the waffle.
We've seen him go for quite a few marks in the back line as well. Do you want to see him just put the fist through it a bit more?
Yeah, I think so. But also, you look at Tom Barrass early on, look at Jeremy McGovern early on, they dropped a lot of marks. Used to frustrate the hell out of me as a teammate. But you don't get better unless you're doing it at AFL level. Like you practice at training, but you got to execute in games. And it's not necessarily waffle, especially in this circumstance where they don't have anyone to back him up. You just got to give him time.
All right, that's all our questions for now. There's a few others coming through too. We'll watch the tribunal with interest and see if Scully's
I hope he gets off.
head explodes in the next 24 hours or not, and then if we go to an appeal or not as well. We'd love to hear all your questions and comments. A lot, obviously, coming from WA, but league-wide, we'd love to chat about plenty of issues if you want to get involved as well. Thank you very much, Scully.
Thank you, mate. I'll cool off now.
Just go a nice cold shower, an ice bath, or something. Go and see Steve and get the physio working over you just to cool you down a little bit. Good to chat as always. Thanks for your company on the Footy Interchange.